130%, it has 23% of government debt in the Eurozone. If Italy, under a new government, defaults on its debt payments or leaves the Eurozone, what would then be the implications for Shell? Well, meanwhile, this assignment is written just, well, some time ago. Meanwhile, we do have a government in Italy, as you may have noticed. And they kept their word. I don't know whether you saw it in the news. I don't know whether we have any Italian friends here, but if so, they are, well, definitely can tell you more about the current situation in Italy. But the situation in Italy is, well, quite challenging at the moment, actually. And we have seen the first signs of that already. Don't know whether you, I think you already noticed, or in Dutch television, all over the newspapers, that for the first time in years, the Italians, they didn't want a boat with migrants to enter one of their ports. They simply refused it. Hundreds of refugees on these boats. But that is what the government mentioned up front. So we are not going to allow any refugees to come in anymore. We're not going to do this. And whatever you may think of this, I mean, they kept their word. They kept their word. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this is, just imagine, they will also keep their word on the promise that they made earlier by saying, we will just leave the Eurozone. Or, well, not exactly Europe, but we will leave the Eurozone, and we want Europe to make some serious adjustments because we do not agree with the way Europe is run currently. Now, that might not just be the wisest thing to do. Well, I'm a macroeconomist by training, so I love this case for several reasons, also for macroeconomic reasons, but if you then look at the situation, well, currently, well, this is the agenda item, but if you just look at the current situation, I also made a few slides on that. If you then look at the situation, how it was, how it is, thanks to the European Union, in Italy, interest rates are much lower than they used to be. And thanks to the European Union, the Italian economy is flourishing. Now just imagine the Italian government would default on the European Union. Then interest rates probably would go up, causing the economy to also default. And that's not even, perhaps not even the worst thing. But if the interest rates levels go down, that's also very, well, disadvantageous for those who hold a stake in government bonds. Will also depreciate. And as it seems now, that some 60% of bond outstanding is in the hands of the Italian public. Much more than in the rest of Europe. So they really have a severe problem. So if the economy collapses, then it really collapses, and then also, well, the banking system may collapse along with it. And that is one of the largest fears within Europe, that simply it will collapse. And since the Italian government is now run by the Five-Star Movement, as you may perhaps know, the Five-Star Movement and the Lega North. And the Lega North, actually, well, in the old days, they wanted to divide Italy in the northern part and the southern part, the northern part being the richest part. And the southern part was obviously the poorest part. So they focused on economic development specifically in the north, segregating from the rest. We also had quite some issues already. I don't know whether you read that in the news, that the Italian president, Sergio Mattarella, refused to accept the appointment of one of the ministers, the economy minister, Mr. Paolo Savona. Well, in the end, well, he kind of accepted the situation as it was. He was put in position again, but in a different position. But the problem remains. Now, the point is, you are Shell again today. And you have to work under these unpredictable conditions. So what is going to happen? What may happen? And please also remember what I just told you, that the Italians, they seem to keep their word, or appear even to keep their word. So we don't know what may be happening. I mean, what we do know is that another boat of refugees is already approaching the Italian coast, and we simply don't know what will happen. As I read in the newspaper this morning, this new boat will probably be a boat for the Coast Guard, and the Italian government cannot refuse its own Coast Guard to come to one of the Italian ports, of course. But if any other foreign ship would again enter one of these ports, the refugees might simply be refused. And also remember, see what happened. What happened in the news was that the Hungarians were thrilled. And as you also may know, that the Hungarians are very much opposite to the Eurozone, along with the Italians and the Czechs and the Poles. So it's not just about Italy. If just this fire starts burning, then it might burn all over Europe. And if it burns all over Europe, then it's also going to hit you as Shell. Now, this is a bit of context that this boardroom simulation is put in. Well, just to give you a bit of an idea. Okay, I also have a very nice slide here. Well, this is the RAP method. You already seen that. You noticed that already last time. It is when discussing, trying to step back and why the new options do not try to answer or to answer questions immediately, I wanted to say, but also, I mean, what you might get is that you focus on one topic and you keep on walking down the way of the topic, whilst if you really want to come to a solution, you need to step back sometimes and say, okay, what exactly is the issue at hand? Then the reality test of assumptions is also specifically in this case, in case of Italy, if you make assumptions, then also please test them. I mean, you've got the laptops with you. I mean, normally we don't like using laptops, but I can imagine that in this case, for assumption testing, reality testing, you might need your laptop, and please do so. Because what you don't want is that you base your decisions on an assumption that were not checked. And if you don't check your assumptions, you're creating your own reality. And creating your own reality as a board is the least, or is what you don't want. Attain distance, and also prepare to be wrong. I mean, we also have these, perhaps you also recognize that, and I do, because I also, well, it's difficult for me to also say, sometimes say to my colleague, well, sorry, Art, but you were right. I was wrong.
Mostly it's the other way around.
No, it's not. It's not. But I mean, say, well, you are right. I mean, that is okay. That just also feels okay. But to say I was wrong is a bit trickier. Well, it's quite the opposite. It's basically the same. But that also tells you something about yourself. And being wrong, and being able to tell also your partner that you are wrong is also a sign of strength. And sometimes you need to be weak in order to be strong. It sounds kind of paradoxical, but that's really true. Now, Arnd, you also would like to say something about the emotions.
Yes,
part.
indeed, yes.
And but the point is, I did have this. I copied it, but
It's in the one.
obviously it didn't really work that well. Let's see if I can. No, it should be here. I mean, I don't know why it copied into the wrong slide bit. Also no. Curious.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
It's in the email.
It's in the email.
It's in the email.
It's
It's in the email. The second.
presentation to
It's in there. I looked at it this morning.
okay. Then I first have to go to my email. Sorry, guys.
I didn't receive any. I didn't receive the email.
Yeah, it's the original email he sent to us today, and it has like 6 or 7 attachments, and it's the last one. I saw it this morning.
Okay.
So that's the presentation.
Let's see.
Send it on Friday, Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And the last one.
That's
Which ones?
All by one. All by one.
Yeah, it's one of these two on the bottom. Go back, go back. Yeah.
That's all right. Yeah.
You should download it.
I am not really doing anything more. That one. In the meanwhile, we should have already.
Yeah. So, we call from, from 2 days ago, we were talking about what our brain is doing to us in terms of playing all these kinds of pranks on us when it comes to decision making and deliberating. We are subject to these biases and effects and shortcuts. And the pretty good or bad news was that we can't do that much about it, but we have to get in touch with other people that more or less offset the biases that we have. So if we are incurable optimists, that has some inherent risk, of course, we need to get in touch with someone who's an incurable pessimist and then try to get along. Now, this is one of the major influences on decision making. Another one is stemming from something that we are constantly exposed to, which is emotions. I mean, we're so used to it that we will not discuss this each and every day, and it's just become routinely experienced and exercised parts of our brain activities. And of course, they do have another big impact on the so it's not only the biases, which are more of a systemic influence, systemic error, making inclinations. Emotions are something else. You may have been recalling some of your organization behavior classes, applied psychology. There's even a difference being made between people being emotionally stable and unstable. You all know that with some people, they You got mood swings almost from one minute to the other. It's difficult to deal with. And Mr. Trump may be someone who is specifically and especially exposed to that. But there may be others that are a lot more predictable in behavior. Now you need to analyze yourself and your executive team members' emotional setup too. Because, well, emotions can range from love to hate, from fear to complete overconfidence, from joy to anger to sadness. Those are just some examples of how emotions are affecting us. And well, what are they? That is pretty much still a matter of debate. And some of the researchers you can see here, if I were you, make some notes so you can check what they have been contributing and use it for your reflection paper, for your memorandum, for analyzing yourself and what you've been experiencing. One of the first people doing research in that area is a wonderful colleague from the States, and her name is Martha Nussbaum. You may have heard of her. She's a good friend of some people in Groningen. She stops by ever so often to give some talk about it. And she said actually emotions are something very close to cognition. It's a kind of insight, an evaluative insight that we do have, and of the nature, of the following nature, which is about that phenomenon X is bad for us. It's a big threat for us. That usually then causes fear. Let's say, think of some extreme instability, political instability in this case, which might instill fear in the minds and hearts of people making decisions in the boardroom. It could be on a personal note, some kind of illness or sickness that you might see early symptoms of. So that is, for instance, an example. And then what is specific about the emotions is that is what people tended to place most emphasis on, because it's the most visible and noticeable part is that, as the word indicates, it moves us. You got the similarity, the relationship between emotion and moving. It's basically the same word. Whoever comes from any Latin language background knows that, has been knowing it all the time. And that is an indicator and also something to take into account. So any kind of relatively strong emotion will have an impact on what you're doing. Not only what your decision will be, also what you do. How will you be moving about? Will you leave the room? Will you look askance and an angry way at someone? That's the typical influence that emotions have. And you can see some research has been done on that. There's a key role, and so they are underestimated. They're underrated all the time because it's a little bit of a taboo. You may have already noticed that. It's part of the game of society is played in such a way that you will try to keep your emotions under wraps. Unless you're Donald Trump, who, well, again, only joking, but no, what he's trying to break the rules. But mostly people in the public arena would tend to not display their emotions. That can also be the case. You have to be watching out for that. And there they are. They listed displeasure, I already mentioned it, is positive or negative. And don't forget, emotions can be working in your favor, and they can be damaging. It's ambiguous and ambivalent as all of these things. The very same way as thinking fast and thinking slow can have positive impact or negative impact. There's nothing inherently negative or positive about it. It depends on the situation. So that adds and takes to the complexity and takes it to the level that master's level is assured. So if anybody should have to ask themselves, is this complex enough? Well, it is overly complex, and we really have to challenge ourselves to do that. You can see some other examples there. Hunger, anger, and fear. That's why I recommended take a break at one point, because your stomachs otherwise may send some signals to your brains, and that you can get extremely emotional for some reasons completely unrelated to the political or economic situation. So take that seriously. Take some nutrients, and that will get you back in balance. Regret and disappointment. Yes, of course, that can just happen. Very trivial things like, okay, you had prepared yourself so well, and now it turns out, oh, you just forgot about one tiny detail. And there's colleague X who got this detail right. What is this appointment? We're just competing and just trying to get them this kind of little bit of the competition. Who knows better? Who knows most things, most relevant things? I think this happen. Try to be as resilient as possible, which is a crazy recommendation because, again, your emotions will be more or less in control. But you can actually practice also something like, well, and now you're going to be laughing because it seems almost oxymoronic, the contradiction in terms. Control, always say, no, it says manage your emotions. Can you see how crazy that is? What a wonderful thing it would be if we could do that. So just try to practice, and we can get some training on that. Actually, you can actually basically learn to get better at almost everything. But it's a challenge, and you should maybe take classes on that. Enhancement, commitment, self-improve, love and guilt. Yeah, please. Those are just the extreme ends of the spectrum of emotions. Then you got learner and low and seen. Also note these. Basically, please note all the contributors. Fisher and Ball, they're going back in the past, but they have been contributing seminal papers. Learner and low and seen similar. And there may be emotions that are integral to your personality, and others may be just completely incidental, depending on what the situation is. And well, you can see the cognitive biases, they are just very close relatives of it. So this entire package of emotions, integral and incidental, plus all the cognitive biases, the effects, the shortcuts, system 1, system 2, you will have some room to move if and when you talk about and analyze your experiences in the boardroom. Maria, would you like to add something to that topic?
No. I think this is so massive. If you read,
I knew you wanted to add something exactly.
If you really dive even only into the meaning of each of these words, and you go back in your own memory, not only to last Monday, but what you have experienced throughout your life in your doing a presentation, doing an oral exam, being in a boardroom, doing a job, and being confronted with people in a decision-making moment, what actually it is that determines your position. And we are all emotion-driven because we consist of emotions. And very unfortunately, very often, we, with hindsight, have to conclude, oh my God, I am doubting my decision now because I emotionally feel different. Why is that? Why was I not capable? And then comes the one word that we have to avoid. Why was I not capable of suppressing my emotions? Don't suppress them. Use them to your advantage. Play with them. And that's what I'd like to give you for today. But most of all, be aware of the fact that you consist of emotions and that you can use them.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is also when regret is kicking in, the situation that you just mentioned. Would you like to add something about the emotions as well from your perspective?
From my perspective, this is a very intercultural group.
Yes.
It's always difficult for some students to say no, and also difficult to sometimes you have to hesitate. Should I be listening to the others, or should I be so assertive?
True.
You should always think about how to balance it. Don't be too stubborn, and also sometimes you do need to defend what you think is right.
That is also very much. Thank you so much. And back to you.
Okay, thank you, dear colleagues, for this wonderful contribution.
Digression.
Sorry for the inconvenience. Obviously, I did copy them, but it didn't work as I wanted it to work. Oh, that's it. The continue with it. Okay, well, the group assessment, they're in this slide again. What I will also do, and what we'll do is afterwards also upload the slides on Blackboard. So you can also find them there. Also, the names of the authors, you can also find them there. Well, you may have also already noted them, but if not, then please do not be afraid. They will also be on Blackboard. So the group assessment, please remember 80%. You have to work on the group assessment together as the BRS group. By the way, the groups will be the same as they were last time, obviously, because otherwise it would also be possible to do the assignment. And then in the end, we also have a reflection report, also the output already discussed last time. That's the personal touch to it. And again, if you want to know more and more in detail, please go to Blackboard. The assignment is already there, so you can some remarks up front, maybe just a little bit childish, but smartphones, please switch them off. No phone calls during the meeting, no laptops unless used for bureau's purposes. Maybe that you want to check some assumptions or whatever, please go ahead, but not for answering emails or for just looking at what's live music, whatever. This is about the business simulation, the boardroom simulation, and then of course what the core value respect, and respect each other, well, about who you are. I mean, this is one of the things, not using an instrument, using each other instrumentally. Although I can imagine talking also about emotions, and using emotions, and it is also very much linked also to politics and how that to use your emotions to corner group members or to convince them, but do it respectfully. Yeah, please do it respectfully, because that's also, I think, that's one of the, to me at least, that's one of the core issues. To respect people just because who they are and not having to use them to your own benefit. That would be my respect, in my regard for respect.
Today, that's important.
Okay. So when we change the rooms a bit and also the facilitators, for now, group 1, that's the same group that we had last time. Group 1, then we'll go to room A105, 2B109, 3B143, etc., etc. In case we have any problems, just a few minutes, guys. In case we have any problems with the room together, and I checked it, double checked, so it should be okay now, really okay. But in case something goes wrong, we still have some spare rooms left. Now, if you have any problems or if you're facing any problems, I will be moving from between B23 and B29. Please tap me on the shoulder if you have any problems, and we will try to solve them immediately. Okay? Okay, well, have a great one, and looking forward to wonderful boardroom sessions. In case you still need a group division, I've got a few here and a few agendas as well. And also, please take one of these empty sheets with you. You will use them.
Yo, Friday.
1, 2.
Taking care of my people.
That's great. That's very good leader.
That's an essential part to manage your emotions.
Very good. I will stay here.
Oh yeah, that's also
That's good.
kind of a privilege.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go again.
Okay, well,
There you go. Yeah.